Have you ever felt like you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing as a narrator, but somehow you're still not where you want to be? Maybe you've bought the microphone, you've built the recording space, and maybe you've watched a dozen YouTube videos, joined Facebook groups, taken classes, and even maybe narrated a few audiobooks already. And yet, somehow, it still feels like you're missing something. Well, in this video, I want to help you understand why so many narrators feel stuck, what publishers actually care about, and what you can do to move forward with more confidence and clarity. Before we jump in, I recently put together a free guide called the Narrator Career Ladder. It's a simple roadmap that shows all of the different stages most narrators go through as they move from beginner to publisher ready. So if you're interested in this, you can download it at thehomeaudioproject.com/ladder. But also on a personal note, I'm really excited because I've been working on something new this year that's come directly out of all the coachings I've been doing and my time at Audiobooks at Sea. But I'll talk more about this a little bit later in the video. But for now, let's jump in. One thing I've noticed after working with narrators for so many years, and especially after talking to people recently on Audiobooks at Sea, is that most narrators aren't struggling because they're lazy. You could probably already guess that. But they're struggling because they're overwhelmed. Think about it. One person teaches recording, another teaches performance, someone like me teaches editing and mastering and post-production. Then you jump into a Facebook group and get 5 completely different answers to the same question. Because before long, you're trying to piece all of that together without seeing the full picture. Now, I've seen narrators spend months trying to solve problems that weren't really problems at all. And I've seen narrators who actually are doing pretty good convince themselves that they're failing because somebody online told them that they needed different gear or they needed a different coach. They just needed to do things a different way. So the problem isn't effort. The problem is clarity. And that's why it actually goes back to my Narrator Career Ladder guide and why I created it. Because over the years, I've seen narrators move through a series of stages. Early on, you're learning equipment, recording, spaces, the basics of recording. Then you start to learn about editing and mastering, a completely different phase. Then after that, you focus on consistency. Then that's when they start figuring out how rights holders and publishers and production companies work. Eventually, they reach a point where they can deliver consistent professional work and become what I call publisher ready. The mistake many narrators are making are comparing themselves to people that are several stages ahead of them. Now, there's nothing wrong with trying to reach a goal, but you're trying to solve tomorrow's problem and you haven't even solved today's problem. So instead of asking, how do I become a publisher ready narrator? The better question right now to ask is, what is the next step that's in front of me right now? That is where progress starts. Now, let's talk about something that I think surprises most narrators. And that is publishers care far less about perfection than most narrators think. Not because audio quality doesn't matter, it absolutely does. But I've seen narrators spend hours worrying about things that have very little impact on whether they actually get hired again. They obsess over little things like EQ and if they're boosting 3K or 4K, or if their compression's right. But if you're working for a publisher, they're worrying, is my recording too low? Is it too loud? Am I clipping? Do I need a better microphone? But meanwhile, publishers are actually asking a much simpler questions or questions in general. And that's, can this narrator consistently deliver professional work? Meaning, can they meet deadlines? Can you follow instructions? Can you provide clean, reliable audio? Can they be easy to work with? And can they deliver a product that is consistent in audio from chapter 1 to chapter 20? Those are the things that build trust. And trust is what gets you hired again. In my experience, most narrators don't lose opportunity because their EQ or their recording volume was a little too low. They lose opportunity because they're inconsistent and their communication sucks. One chapter sounds different than the next, or they're missing deadlines, or they're not communicating, and they're overcomplicating their workflow. They spend too much time chasing perfection or bogged down by projects that they're not communicating that. The narrators who tend to move forward the fastest aren't actually the ones with gear problems or the most plugins or the best sound. They're the ones that have a simple system that they can repeat over and over again. One of the biggest mistakes I see narrators make is that they're trying to solve workflow problems with gear. Something sounds off, so let me buy another microphone or another mic cable or another plugin. I'm thinking about switching DAWs. And before long, they've spent a bunch of money, but still don't feel confident. Because the real issue is not the equipment. It's that you don't have a system, a repeatable process, a way of knowing this is how I record, this is how I edit, and this is how I do my quality checks. When you have a process, your confidence goes up dramatically because you're no longer guessing. So if you're feeling lost right now, here's my advice. Keep things simple. Focus on building a workflow before building a plugin collection. Focus building on consistency before perfection. And focus on learning the next step instead of trying to learn everything at once. The narrators who move forward the fastest usually aren't the ones chasing every new piece of advice. They're the ones who find a process that works and they keep improving that over time. And that's true whether you're narrating your first ACX book or you're working with major publishers. And as promised, this is actually what brings me to something I'm really excited about and how I want to help you move forward so you don't have to stress about it. Over the last year, I've been doing a lot of coaching with narrators, helping them improve their recording space or simplify their mastering or troubleshooting workflows to help them build more confidence. And one thing I kept noticing was that many narrators don't actually care about becoming an audio engineer like me. Now, they want to understand enough to make good decisions, but they really want to focus on is narrating books. So after having these same conversations over and over, I decided to build something around that need. And this is what I'm excited to announce is that I'm launching something called the Publisher Ready Narrator System. Now, this is a combination of getting a custom mastering stack built by me specifically for your voice, your recording space, and your setup, along with personalized coaching. And that way you can get workflow guidance, so that way you can stop second guessing, stop overcomplicating on your audio, and focus more on narration. So if this sounds like something you've been looking for, you can check all of the information out at thehomeaudioproject.com/publisher-ready. Links here on the screen. And if you haven't downloaded the Narrator Career Guide yet, make sure to grab it at thehomeaudioproject.com/ladder, because that is what's going to help you identify where you're at right now and what your next step should be. But with that, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video real soon.